team that epitomises the post-1970 groups in their pursuit of excellence, a movement away from the mystique surrounding the Morris of the earlier 1900s. I'd just like to ask you a few questions, Jenny, about the team and how you got involved in Morris. Perhaps starting with how you got involved, who with, and when.
Well, we started 1974. Alan and I used to run a folk club, and some of the women that used to come to the folk club were interested. We'd seen Morris dancing done, and we thought, yeah, that'd be nice, we'd like to have a go at that. So we talked, there were enough of a group to start. It was very sort of scratchy at first. We didn't always have enough for a side, but then we got to know some more local women who were at the local mother and baby club, and they started to come along, and that's how the side started, really.
When was that?
That was 74. We first danced out in 75.
Did you have any problems from local sides and objections?
Well, our local men's side were, we got in touch with them when we were starting up to say, you know, we intend to be dancing in Windsor, because that was their spot, although they weren't actually based in the town itself. They didn't exactly object, but they weren't exactly overjoyed, and in fact, you know, in succeeding years we've been in touch with them and said we'd like to come on tour and things like that, but they never have, and in the end we've just given up on them, really.
When you started, how many dancers did you have, and how many have you grown to now?
I suppose we must have started with about 9 dancers, and we have about 15. It varies because at any one point people are pregnant, or, you know, and we're losing people as they go off to college and things like this, but it seems to be stable, about 12 to 15 dancers.
What about the music? Have you had problems with music?
Well, we've always had Alan. Alan's been our musician right from the start, and that's been really useful with me being foreman, that, you know, we've been able to talk a lot and discuss Morris and plan what we're going to do together. And it's difficult relying on one person. I think we found that over the last few years, and now we're trying to get other people. One person especially in the side is learning, and we'll be able to take over some of the bookings.
What instrument does he play?
Well, he plays melodeon, and Alison is going to be playing melodeon as well, and we occasionally have drum. Somebody's around to play it.
Why did you go for the melodeon rather than, say, a fiddle or pipe and tabor?
Well, he happened to have a melodeon at the time we started, and that's what, you know, he wanted to learn to play. But actually we're under the flight path of Heathrow, and a fiddle or a pipe and tabor just wouldn't have any chance against the 747s.
Yeah. Back to the actual dances that you do. How did you get your dances? Where did you get them from? And how have you developed your repertoire over the years?
Well, we started off, I think, like most women's sides, doing a bit of Ilmington. Tubby Reynolds taught Brackley at an instructional, so we sort of thought, oh yes, we'd like to do that. And then we were asking Roy about other traditions that, you know, might be possible, and he taught some Badby. I think in those days, you know, going back 10 years, there was very much a mood for women's sides to look at the backwater traditions, not the Loughborough and Fieldtown and things, but to do something that wasn't being performed particularly often by other sides. And Brackley and Badby, you know, we stuck to, we liked it, and over the years we've developed and worked on them and changed them, probably out of all recognition to the way we were taught. And I mean, we don't call them that anymore. The Windsor dances, we've changed little bits here and there, but as it's gone on over 10 years, it's changed so much that I wouldn't like to call it Brackley, really. Based on, we say, based on Brackley or Badby.
You have a reputation as being very keen on the standard of dancing. Many teams go from one tradition to another and keep the interest of people by changing the repertoire every few years. But you've, for a long time, have had a limited repertoire. How do you actually keep up the momentum of practices and the pressure to always raise the standard?
Well, I mean, we've always been attracted to Cotswold dancing, you know, in terms of it's an energetic dance, it's fluid, it asks a lot of the individual dancer as well as asking a lot of teamwork. And I think whatever tradition you're doing, whether it's so-called simple or, you know, you can develop in that way. Every year we go back to basics, even with the dancers that have been there right from the beginning. And every year we kind of have been doing a lot of thinking about phrasing of the dancing, dance movements. And of course, because you stick to the same thing, you can actually afford to be quite detailed in what you want. And because people know they've got a limited amount of knowledge that they have to have in terms of what figure, you know, they're not having to try and remember sort of 10 different stepping sequences for 10 different traditions. They've got that basis, and they can actually work on the more detailed stuff and the stylistic details and things. So I think you can get further as people feel comfortable because they dance it, you know. We also do a lot of, most of the dances we do now aren't collected. They're ones that are made up or adapted from other traditions. And that's another way of keeping people's interest, because we, you know, find a tune we like and think, oh, we could do a dance to that tune. As the experienced dancers have got more physical skills, and when we get new, keen, fit people in who've got more physical skills, we've sort of, say, taken on leapfrog dances, which we couldn't possibly have done 6 or 7 years ago, and more jigs. So the older dancers contribute in that way, or the people that want to, you know, work at dancing in that way.
How often do you actually practice?
We practice once a week.
And for how long?
8 till about 10:30.
And when you're dancing out, what sort of functions do you go to?
Well, we dance locally. We dance at local pubs, shopping precincts and things. We might tour on our own or invite other sides to join us. We do occasional sort of school fetes and things, mainly that have people in the team, you know, may teach at school or their kids at a school, so there's some kind of connection there. The local arts centre we've got a lot of connections with, so we do stuff with them. And also we go visit other sides. This year we went to the States. We have friends in the States who invite us over, other Morris dancers, meeting people at workshops or festivals and things, and you get talking and arrange to meet and do a tour together, either at Windsor or we go and see them.
Have you ever had any other trips abroad? You've been to the States?
Yeah, well, this year we got asked to do an international festival at Jamaica, completely out of the blue, International Youth Year. So that was great. But why and where, the wherefore of it, we don't know. We just, you know, it seemed to be totally luck that they got in touch with us, but that doesn't come every year.
And obviously most of the events that you've mentioned are during the summer.
Yeah.
Do you keep up your practices during the summer, or do you have the system that a lot of sides seem to, where they practice during the winter and then dance out or during the summer?
No, we practice during the summer as well. Maybe about 3 Wednesday nights, which I practice night, out of the summer we'll do a tour instead, especially if we have new dancers. Then we'll do a sort of quiet pub spot for their first initiation into what it's like touring. But we find, firstly, because we often have new dancers coming out towards the beginning of the season, that it's really important that, you know, to be able to keep going back over stuff. And secondly, it's different dancing out in public. We spend the winter working on basics and working up new dancers, and in the summer we find that after each tour we really need to look at what went wrong, what wasn't quite working, what people have forgotten, and go over that in the practice. So I wouldn't like not to practice in the summer.
In connection with dancing out, in fact I should have asked you earlier, your costume, you wear trousers, but you haven't always done that. Why is it you've picked that particular costume?
Well, when we started, we didn't know anything. We were all complete novices, and we were sort of influenced by what other established women's teams were saying, which was, oh God, you know, you wear skirts and things. So we started off, for the first 3 years we wore skirts. But we've always been interested in doing Cotswold, as Cotswold Morris rather than as Women's Morris. And really, the more we went on with that, we found that dancing in skirts with bells on your feet just wasn't actually suitable for doing the kind of movements we were doing. In practices, everybody was turning up in trousers, and it looked different, it looked stronger, and it looked more authentic. And so after 3 years, it was just, you know, everybody, was a unanimous decision, like, to change the kit into something which we were all wearing anyway when we were practicing. We were all comfortable in wearing, and seemed to be more appropriate for what we were doing.
You've been involved for a long time with a magazine, which is now Morris Matters, which started off linked with the Federation more closely than it is now.
Yes.
Can you describe how you started out and why you felt there was a need for it?
Yes, I was trying to think back to that. When it was in the early days of the Federation, where I think there were so many, you know, each side that was there was from a different community, have different ideas of what they were going to do. And the early Federation meetings were just, you know, hotbed of discussion and disagreement and things. And it was all great fun. And we thought it would be great to have a kind of forum, like a newsletter, which went to all the teams where people could carry on. So it wasn't just once a year, but things would come up and people could write in and say what they thought and then take up points that other people had made. We went for 1 year just as a Federation newsletter, and then we had quite a lot of people outside the Federation who were interested in either writing for it or buying the magazine anyway, and so we decided to sort of go separate, but still to have links with the Federation, in that everybody that wants from the Federation has can get Morris Matters as part of their subscription.
And what sort of articles does the magazine include?
Well, we try to keep a balance. We have a lot of historical stuff. Both Roy Dummett's been wonderful with all of his stuff, and Keith Chandler and other people. But we don't want it to be academic, really. It's trying to get a balance between the academic stuff in the background and also the kind of things that when people get together, like foremans get together at weekends or the musicians' weekends or festivals, the kind of thing that people talk about that are interested in Morris. Like, stylistic things, how you run practices, a whole load of different aspects which people just get together in the pub to talk about, to try and bring those into the magazine. And also what's going on, reviews of workshops, reviews of festivals.
Right, can I just finish with one final question? I don't know quite what you'll say, but why do you do it?
Oh, God. It's just very, very satisfying, exciting. Oh, it's wonderful.
It seems to command complete dedication from people.
I think it does.
Like yourself.
It's like the best of both worlds, because it's a team dance and you have all the things about being in a team, but you also have a lot of individual responsibility and a lot of opportunity for individual expression and for people to work in their own way at what they like doing. And in a team, that doesn't have to be dancing. That can be organising or being the one that looks after the younger ones or whatever. There's a lot of aspects.
What about the entertainment side? I mean, do you feel that's important, the fact that you're producing, if you like, a show, a display?
Oh yes, I mean that's the whole thing. You're not having to take the risk of getting up there and being a solo entertainer. You haven't got the full responsibility, but you've got that excitement that comes from dancing in front of an audience and the response that you get from the audience that feeds into the performance and then comes on. I mean that's what's nice about it.
What do you see in the future for Windsor?
For Windsor, well, I'd like to see it carry on, and I'd like to see, with the younger members of the team, them carrying on developing in their own way. And I hope we can, give them enough background and basis and encouragement for it to go on when we're kind of staggering around on crutches.